You're listening to Runescape Weekly Special Comp Cape Edition. Magebit here. Joining me today is Bladecom, Jake, and StormSmith. We have a very special edition here. Jagex is going back and forth on the Comp Cape rework, and we have some documents to talk about. Mainly, we wanted to focus in on the dev blog being the simplified design. So first up, we have Bladecom joining us. Hello, Bladecom. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Jake is also joining us. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And returning from the dead, StormSmith. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time, mate.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on the show. So, Comp Cape. Last time we discussed Comp Cape, I believe we were talking about the different tiers of the Cape, and they were broken up between combat area and what was the other one? Oh, yeah, skilling. Oh, how could I forget about skilling? It just seems like Jagex forgets about skilling all the time. Excuse me, sorry. Anyway. For whatever reason, it seems as though much contention in fighting, much ado has been going on in the RuneScape community, and I don't know.
It certainly has created quite an uproar.
Yeah, on Reddit and in Discord, there has been much fighting going on amongst why all this new content must come about, and on May 13th, Jagex released this Comp Cape simplified design. And it says here, "Hello everyone. The Comp Cape rework has been under discussion for some time now. We've been continuously talking with you and reading your pieces on feedback on various platforms such as Twitter, Reddit, Discord, and the RuneScape forums." Yeah. We've been a bit quiet recently because we've been having some bigger discussions amongst the Four Directions team and the wider RuneScape team. And for Pernasius, I just want to remind everyone that I believe it was him who cracked the joke about how the Four Directions team was literally tearing RuneScape in four directions, and I really think that's kind of funny because it really kind of rings true now. I mean, I feel like now that Pernasius is literally no longer with us here, I can't find him anymore because of this frickin' update, and I just feel like that really rings true. With the Four Directions team has quartered my goddamn team, I'll tell you that. Anyway, over time, we've received various points of feedback regarding the complexity of the pitched design and how players perceived the complexity. We sat down to discuss the reasons for this and how we could tackle them in order to simplify the design. We want the new reworked system to feel familiar and comprehensible to new players and old ones. So, in this devlog, we're going to discuss our new simplified design pitch for the Comp Cape rework. This design is a much more cut-down version of the previous iteration, but still lacks all the major points of feedback regarding comp. First up, the design. We're stripping away a lot of the previous design. As such, the completionist and trimmed completionist capes will remain as they are currently in-game. We won't be adding any new capes, new tiers of capes, new meta achievements, or making anything into quote-unquote legacy cape. With the new changes listed later, we hope to make the path to obtaining comp and maintaining it a much more enjoyable and satisfying journey, as well as opening up more room for more achievements with new and old content, and the introduction of new capes in the future. The quote Reaper Crew achievement will be removed as a requirement from Comp Cape. Reaper has caused issues ever since its introduction, years after Comp was initially brought into the game, frequently locking many players out of the cape they were otherwise always able to obtain. Hard bosses are intentionally designed to be harder than many players are comfortable with, which makes for a poor combination with the Comp Cape. Whether most other content is normally easily accessible and soloable, many various bosses introduce difficult and forced group gameplay, as well as Reaper can sometimes limit developers from pushing difficulty on new high-end bosses, as it can cause an uproar in the comp community. We've seen various instances of this in the past. Feel free to interrupt me at any time if anyone wants to interject on any of these statements.
This is like the first major, like, I guess, uproar or change they've added to the simplification.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very strange to like kind of go from like we're gonna be really supporting the combat community and PVM for completionism, and then completely like strip it away in this new design.
It's a complete like 180 as far as I'm concerned, and it really kind of goes against the completionist sentiment. And I know that they have been banging their heads against their wall, the wall, saying that they really hate the fact that they named it the completionist cape. And again, the other design fixed that problem, and they've gone and shot themselves in like every toe on both feet, in my opinion, by switching back to this design and calling it the completionist cape once again, because you're not completing the game by removing the Reaper assignment from the cape.
I think that's just making it easier so it's more accessible to people. But completing the game is completing the game.
And
I do sort of get their argument, though, that some of the bosses are just too hard for some people.
And I agree with that as well.
Yeah, me too.
I see, and I agree with both sides of that fence. And I'm on the side of the fence that some of the bosses in the game are absolutely too hard for me. But I also accept the fact that I will never have a completionist cape because of that. But on the other side, if I am rich enough to like buy that title, like buy through that, and that's a way I can do it, like I don't care if that's a thing. Like, it's a scummy way to do it, and like I think that goes against the spirit of the game, and yada yada yada. Like, but like, if you want to have a completionist cape and you want it to truly mean completionist, you have to go all in on the word. You can't call it a completionist cape and then you can do anything you want, but I'm not going to recognize it as a completionist cape. I'm just, and I don't think a lot of people are, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here having this fight right now, would we? Because, go ahead.
And I would say, like, even for like the old design, since they had the tier split anyways, where your stats could be obtained through the combat portion of it, and like all the other benefits could be attained through skilling and quests. Like, it still feels like it even goes against like the design that they wanted, to like appeal to. I feel like it just really neuters like that sentiment.
Yeah, it really just takes away from the whole, be your best, do everything in the game. And I mean, I understand that it's trying to appeal to the masses. But completionism is not supposed to appeal to the masses. And I don't know, watering down these types of things is a slippery slope when you're dealing with achievements and rewarding your high tier players and trying to foster a sense of achievement in your game. You want to have, a community that incentivizes, like competitiveness. Like you see the esports community that they've been trying to foster in old school RuneScape. I mean, I don't know if that could ever happen in RuneScape 3 because of just the way that we treat content in this game. It's just we baby things too much. It just seems as though everything needs to be so easy, and just everything has to be almost level playing field. There can't be a challenge. God forbid there be content that is, has an edge and has a learning curve and have some sort of lack of a handhold to it. I don't know. Again, I'm one of those old school RPGers that I don't like the fact, like, if I leave a quest undone for 6 years and don't finish it for 6 years, that doesn't make me mad. That just means I'm playing RuneScape. Go ahead.
This design, is it the one where they split it into 4 different categories out of curiosity, or is this the...
Yeah, that's the one that they've moved away from.
Oh, that's a shame. I quite like that design.
Yeah, most people did. It was 3 categories: area, skilling, and combat. Or was it lore, combat, skilling, and area? Was it?
It was 5.
Oh, God.
Lore, combat, and skilling being the main 3.
Oh,
and then and then you had like miscellaneous stuff, and then you had like the tasks. The task stuff.
You're right. Okay, skills, exploration, combat, minigames, miscellaneous, and completionist. And then they wanted to split that up into areas. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It felt quite a bit... It was very complex and a little convoluted, but I really liked the direction they were going with it.
Yeah, I think
I do agree that they're kind of just pandering to the community in this sense that they...
Yeah, they're knee-jerking in both directions is what's happening.
Exactly.
They're just snapping. Go ahead.
I just sort of like that they could have created capes for each different type of player. Like, you'd probably end up having the skilling one at some point. At some point, when I can be bothered, I'd get the PVM one.
That was the plan, right? That was the whole beauty of this. Is I would
the
totally
completion escape could be exactly that.
Yes, and then when you got, by the power of this of all 3 tier 3 capes combined, that is your true completionist cape. That was the worthiness of an actual completionist. That sounds amazing.
But I feel like it would have felt a lot more rewarding as well.
Yeah, it's like that sounds like an actual completionist cape. But people who have a completionist cape already, I feel like enough of them that just sounded like too much work for them, and they were able to just shift the flow.
But it's like in a strange category because like getting a completionist cape in that newer rework or the design previous didn't necessarily give you the stats. It was more cosmetic at that point. Like you got it previously, so there's no incentive to go for it unless you're, really gung-ho about being that completionist, which was, I think, a better thing for.
Yeah, that's true. Go ahead, StormSmith.
I mean, it's good that they've moved the stats to Reaper. I sort of agree with that, but I don't like that it's like once you've completed the achievement, you get 100% of the stats. I prefer it to be more of a sliding scale.
I like
so
that.
So you get a percentage per boss, then depending on how good you are, depends on how many stats you get. Personally, I can't stand Solak. I don't want to learn it. I'm not interested. So if I had like 98%, I'd be happy.
Right? And you should be punished for not being good at Solak, or it should incentivize you to, learn Solak, right? It would give you a reason to want to do it, at the very least, to work through your pain. But there is no reason. You just hate Solak because, and then it's just because. And there's no reason to do it because you're already comp, if you are. But anyway. Shall I continue on to the next one here?
Sure.
All right. The quote, how many games Castle Wars achievement will be removed as a requirement from the trimmed comp cape. This achievement has also been controversial over the years, requiring a huge amount of time from the player. At one point, it also had to have its requirement reduced, yet it's still improved since. It's wildly out of sync. It's wildly out of sync with other achievements on the trimmed comp cape, and quite frankly, it needs to be addressed. If we were releasing Castle Wars today, yeah, like they would do that, we would never have put an achievement like this on it. The comp cape. So basically, this is what I've been saying for like the past 5-6 years. It's coming. It's going to happen. They're going to do it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. You'd be a fool to waste your time on this unless you could spend anything, any other, get a 120. You could get 5 120s probably in this time. Why would you spend your time on this achievement?
Just bank standing at Castle Wars. I'd have to say that I certainly agree with this part of the simplified design, removing the how many games achievement.
Oh, 100%. It is literally putting people that want trim currently just on a waiting list, and there's literally no point for this.
The minigames died long ago.
The how many games achievement was basically just to be on a VIP list to get into a club. And that's what it was, and that's what it is. That's what it is. It still is for now. And that's, I'm not going to say it's okay, but it is what it is, and I'm not going to complain about it because, what good is that going to do? But, it's just bad game design, and I would like to see it removed either way. But I'm not going to say I told you so.
I didn't particularly mind it being on there. I just thought they should ridiculously reduce the amount of tickets it requires to get the armor.
Yeah, to 100.
I can see that. Yeah, because it's still part of the game.
Yeah,
sure,
it's still part of the game. It's still a mini game.
Play
it's fair enough it being on the comp cape.
You should have to play
stupid time investment.
You should have to play 6 hours of Castle Wars. Okay, that's enough. 6 hours of every minigame and you're good, in my book. That's enough to have mastered every minigame. Except Flash Powder Factory, you shouldn't have to go there. Or Trouble Brewing, you shouldn't have to go there either.
I would say, just because I've done it, there's no relevance to Castle Wars. There's nothing you do in that minigame, or really most other minigames that, warrant, an achievement. It's something you're supposed to do for fun.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It teaches valuable teamwork.
It's almost
skills.
Valuable teamwork. Yeah.
It's almost like it's a miniature game inside the game. You're supposed to do it to get away from the game you're playing. But I don't know. They've just gone out of vogue. A long time ago, and I don't know why we continue to support them. I guess because they're there, and it's easier to just ignore them than anything else. But the fact that something's actually being done about it, I think is interesting. The how many games achievement, though, I think has to be dealt with no matter what course is taken. It can't remain in the game in its current state, no matter what. It has to be reduced, removed, or recycled. One of the three.
Yeah, and I think now that they've stated that's something they're for sure probably not going to go back on.
Yeah, I would hope not. The Calm Cape stats will be taken off of the cape and added as a passive bonus to the Reaper Crew achievement instead. This partially compensates for it being removed from comp, as it seems like the most logical place to put it. As with the previous design, these passive stats will be on the player at all times. You can combine your passive stats with any cape, which means that capes matter again and frees up to add better capes as rewards and drops in the future. The reason for this change is that we need for best in slots pushed a lot for players to pursue the comp cape when they actually had no interest in completionism. Moving the stats allows for the comp cape to have better, more demanding requirements added to it in the future.
In this part, I can agree with wholeheartedly. As a PVMer, always wanting to have best in slot gear, but that being locked behind that many achievements was never something that I was going to do.
You see, I was the type of person who went for them just for the points anyway, but until they release more capes, won't this just mean that everybody's wearing a max cape after done Reaper Crew? It won't change anything.
It won't for now, but it will in the future. Yeah, no, this is just eyeing for the future.
I would imagine. I guess the kiln capes would be probably best in slot after this, because you'd have the passive stats of the comp cape plus the kiln.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That would give me a reason to go do fight, whatever the hell. For a reason.
Even then, though, that's very old content too. So they haven't released a cape in a long time.
Yeah, I know. That's because of comp. It's that just goes to show you what comp has done to capes. So this is a fix for sure. Either way, this has good in it. It's just it's a massive debuff rather. It's a massive nerf to what we were getting because people didn't understand. It's basically because of people's lack of willingness to read the design document, we got a massive nerf to everything.
That could have been,
yeah, because people just were not intelligent enough to read through it, so they dumbed it down and cut out.
Like them, what was it? Nintendo not releasing Super Mario: The Lost Worlds.
Yeah, basically,
because they felt like it would be too complicated for Americans.
Pretty much, yeah. We didn't get that really cool design that in the concave and the other in the T1 through T3 design in the 5 different.
Part of this I guess I could see is the fact that mobile will be releasing soon, and they're probably expecting an influx of new players and something that complicated. But I suppose that's not the point. Like, somebody that's coming into the game is not going to be looking at those capes anyway. So that's
the
poor
thing
argument.
is, though, like, they're not achieving what they were set out to achieve. They said that they were scared about putting in more difficult achievements for comp. Now that they're not splitting it into 5, putting bigger achievements on is still going to piss off compers. It just means there won't be stats attached.
Yeah, I get that. But at the same time...
It might be less relevant just because, like, you're not... Like, the reason I think comp is more annoying now is just because, like, a new piece of content comes out, you're basically locked out of comp, right? And those stats until you complete that new content. With, like, this change, that's no longer the issue.
That's very true. Unless a new boss comes out, then you have that problem. But that happens once in a blue moon compared to new content, which is a constant grind that you're upkeeping on. Utility benefits that are currently tied to the cape item, such as teleports, will be changed to permanent unlocks on the player rather than the cape. This, alongside the stats, currently make the comp cape feel as a mandatory item to have at all times. Moving these elsewhere, for example, making the Av's Alerter ammo collection effect a permanent passive unlock from completing Do No Evil quest, yet again allows for new and more powerful capes to be introduced. Teleports like Max Guild and Kadarian Monastery will be made unlockable from their respective pieces of content and activatable at all times through some form of interface or right-clickable option. The following benefits, which currently are inheritable by the comp cape from other interfaces, will be decoupled from the comp cape and become accessible in-game through other means. As specified above, these will become permanent effects, toggleable or activatable depending on the benefit. From the Max Cape and 99 Capes, the Max Guild Teleport, the ability to add 3 skill cape perks to your cape slot, the Ardun Cloak 4, Cardarian Monastery Teleport, Manor Farm Teleport, Summoning Restore, all task rewards, farm from the Av's Alerter, the Arrow Retrieval effect, Bone Sack, Skeletal Horror Teleport. Jared's Cape will give you the various thieving bonuses and effects. The Spirit Cape gives you 20% less summoning special energy when summoning scrolls. The only benefit not included from the current cape is the Fire Kiln Cape effect, which allows for bonus damage when fighting ice strike worms, as we'd like to return this to being a cape-exclusive bonus. Clear definitions will be written for future comp and trim comp achievements.
Aren't they going to have to rework the 99 range cape then?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's one thing that they have said. I'm a little surprised they're not like just adding like all perks to the comp or to this passive thing now, and still letting you choose. Because I don't know.
That would be an interesting way to do it. Actually, you just like have a system where you can kind of choose from it. You pay a fee, and you can just switch between them.
Kind of like it seems a bit strange now that we still are limited to 3, because a lot of the perks aren't like really overpowered or can't be used in unison.
Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting. Since we are no longer redefining the capes, this shouldn't be too different from what it is now. Moving forward, players and devs will have a clear understanding of what should and shouldn't be required for either cape. This way, with new content, players can know what to expect from new comp requirements, and the new requirements for comp and trim can be much more coherent. With the new previous changes implemented, future additions to comp capes in terms of achievements should not cause any future controversy. As such, we plan to be more active in adding comp and trim comp-related achievements with new content in the future. Likewise, adding existing content could have achievements created and added to comp and trim comp capes. Having initial polling suggested that players don't want a huge batch of requirements to be added all at once, so this should be something that is done over time and not as part of this rework. So I think that's actually something to take away from this. It's not necessarily that they don't want to do everything in that other document. It's that they don't want to drop it all at once. That might be something that's a good takeaway here. I don't know if it's maybe the right thing to take away here, but it's something to take away here. To sum it all up, the new design is to make the smallest changes we can to the comp and trim capes while still fixing all the major complaints and issues. This is a major change based on feedback we've received, and of course, we still want to hear your thoughts. You can get in touch with us via our forums, Reddit, and Discord. So, again, they sound like they want to fix the core problems. This sounds like basically the complete opposite of what happened with mining and smithing. Like, when they went in and were like, hey, what do you want us to do? They were like, don't change anything but the core basics. Whereas with mining and smithing, we were like, overhaul everything. So, this is a very different approach they have to take, actually. And I'm very interested to see, because they can't use the same tactic now that they had to take with the mining and smithing project. They have to kind of make up a new tactic. They have to come from a completely different angle if this actually sticks. Because now, if we flip back over to the original document that was, one iteration ago, that honestly I think was preferable, it broke down into combat skiller, quest, exploration, minigames, and then I think that equaled comp. That's 4, or there was 5. There was an area. I don't know. Point being, they added on to it with this new yellow category, right? They improved the achievement and new capes. That was the idea here. But so the big disappointment, I think for me here, was the lack of new skilling content. Now, I'm not a completionist, so I'm going to speak for myself first, and then I will pass it off to Bladecom, and then we'll go down the line. I'll give it to Jake, and then I'll hand it off to Storm. But for me, no, I'm not a completionist in RuneScape specifically. It's not to say I'm not a completionist in general. I do like completing certain video games. RuneScape has just never been the type of video game that I personally have liked to complete in. That sounds weird. I'm not going to say it again like that. But for whatever reason, RuneScape has been a very different kind of game for me. I've always liked the XP grind. I've always wanted to have just massive amounts of XP and just have max in everything I can for levels. Levels have been everything for me, and I don't know why. I don't know what am I compensating for, but just that's what it's been about for me. Collecting things is cool. Killing things, I have I've had an anxiety disorder my whole life, so adrenaline pumping in my veins has always kind of been an issue for me. I've only recently gotten control of that, so it's only been very recent that I've even begun doing any real PVM or team focused stuff. So that's all new to me. And even having the patience, when David was going with comp is when I originally tried to go for comp, and I rage quit on the mage training arena. I was like, this content should not exist in game. It's trash. This belongs in old school RuneScape. And then honestly, I can't even fathom why they would even want this. It's just garbage. And I suppose my reasoning behind that was because I wasn't gaining any XP. I knew the end goal behind it was to tick off a goal for completionist cape, but the fact that I wasn't getting any XP was maddening, was mind numbing, and it was eating at the back of my brain. And that is a real issue for me in comp. Although I think that now I might have a maybe a different mindset. Although I've said that I'll probably just get comp when I'm 5.4. Like, that's a serious thing, and I mean it. Like, because I won't have that eating at the back of my brain. But that's me. Bladecom, what are your thoughts on this comp kind of backtrack and precision focus into more of just changing the core features of comp instead of reworking the actual larger base?
For me, like, I'm generally just disappointed because currently I've been trim for several years now, and this new design, the design they originally pitched, gave me incentive to go for new achievements, like a new cape, a new status symbol almost.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of like backtracking it to where, you still keep the cape that you currently have, and we're just maybe adding a couple new achievements. And it's just not the same thing. Like, currently, like, I don't have the Master Quest cape, and I really don't have a desire to get it because I currently have what's considered the most prestigious, like, symbol, right?
Yeah.
So this, in the previous design, I would have to get that, which I would enjoy doing, like, just to have, like, this, like,
the thrill of the chase.
Yeah, and, like, I don't mean to sound like elitist about it. It's just that cape, that status symbol, means a lot more than having, like, 4 different status symbols that you switch between.
Sure.
Like, it's the ultimate one that you want to have.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I have like 4 or 5 120s left to get, and I love all of my 120 capes. But when somebody walks by with trim comp on, I'm jealous. That's a gorgeous cape, and it trumps every 120 cape I have, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And it's out of my reach because I'm not willing to put the work in, because everything you have to do would drive me to madness, and I'm not afraid to admit that.
And it's one of those things too, like, because there's no, like, 120 all cape, or there's no, like, I don't know, like, really intense, like, insane final boss is a really incredible type.
Yeah.
But there's no, like, real item for that to, like, represent it.
Sure, I mean, you have to, like, right click somebody or see them in chat to even see that, right?
Yeah, it's just it's extremely different, and yeah. I don't know. It's just I'm just more upset that, like,
that should be RuneScape's motto: extremely different. God.
Yeah, I'm just, like, again, it just makes me upset because it would have given me a new goal for RuneScape.
Yeah,
where now it's more in that stagnant position where it's like, I guess I can go to boss log, but, like, it's not as
it hasn't given you a refocused, rekindled direction.
Yeah, exactly, and that's just where I'm at with it. Like, I'm just disappointed because I now lack a drive to go for these other.
Yeah, I can feel that. Yeah, I was really looking forward to that skilling tier at the very least, and maybe it would have even opened me up into the area tier or even more. Who knows? I mean, honestly, you never can tell. But hey, it's not over. But who knows? This could very well not be the end if this portion of it goes well, or if we keep talking and people keep talking, they may keep going. How many times did the mining and smithing rework get reworked into its reworked self? Like 5, 4? Jake, what are your thoughts on this?
I would say that I was pretty excited for the original rework. It was introducing a lot of... So for me, it's hard for me to stick on the grind for a super long time. And so having little steps along the way to get me there is really what incentivizes it. And that was kind of what the different tiers of the capes would provide. Now that that's gone, I'm still not probably going to go for comp now.
Yeah,
but I mean,
comp, yeah.
The thing I think is most frustrating to me is the complete 180. Just, saying you're going to do something and then going with a simplified design. That simplified design is stripping it of everything that it was.
Yeah.
And just...
Got everyone hyped
care
up.
of a couple things that people were frustrated with.
Yeah, there wasn't even a poll for any of this. It was just flip-flop, flip-flop.
Out of nowhere, yeah.
It's a shame. Storm, thoughts?
Go
ahead. Any more? You keep going?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Storm, thoughts?
Personally, myself, I've been going for comp in kind of a haphazard way. I have about 3 requirements left, but I was mainly doing it for the stats, sort of. And I'm a bit disappointed they've changed it from the 4-tier thing, because if they'd done it to that, I probably would have done the PVM and maybe the Slayer achievements and then stopped, because I'm not interested in skilling, really, unless it is something that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a bit disappointed it's changed, but at least if Castle Wars is gone, maybe I'll go for Trim at some point if I'm feeling lazy and don't want to do bosses.
Brings it back down to earth, at least. Makes it in the realm of possibility, yeah. The chompy bird kills are still a little up there, but, I can handle that at least.
Yeah, it's reasonable. With the Castle Wars, it was.
I know. At least you're doing something. At least there's some murder involved there.
Poor chumpies.
So, Sudi, the ever-rational, reasonable fellow with, honestly, brought us the mining and smithing rework table and everything. On one of my probably, I don't even know how this individual has not been hired and or given honorary pension from Jagex for everything.
Right, just looking over this document, it's quite complex.
You should see the work they did for the mining and smithing. Where they have Game Breaker title, I hope, but
I know they have PMod status. I don't know about Game Breaker.
They better have Game Breaker title. Someone got Game Breaker title for who? Do you know who it was who got Game Breaker title for the mining and smithing update? Someone did, for doing a crazy long document. But anyway,
I think they did all the quests in the mining and smithing.
Yes.
I don't know who it was though.
Yeah, I remember that. That's what the feat was. This though. Yes, correct. Thank you. That's good enough. At least you remembered what it was that happened. I couldn't even get that far into my memory. My brain. Anyway, this rework is basically the same as the completionist rework. It's just Sudi has that, way about him that he is able to put things into ways that rationalize them for people to kind of understand them better, I think. So I'm going to try and read through this, and hopefully it will make sense a little bit more than how Jagex broke it down. But he is quoting a lot from the J-mods in general, mostly Mod Jack, I believe. I think it even says all quotes are from Mod Jack. So this is, again, heavily based upon the original design. It's just laid out properly and then tweaked at the end, I believe, to work, I think, a little bit more in line with maybe what players want. But again, expanding to be, I think, a little more robust. It says here, all quotes are of Mod Jack, unless otherwise stated. I know it's a little longer, but bear with me. Let me just increase this font size to about 3 million. All right. It says here, since the simplification of the design proposal, I've seen a lot of complaints about it. On the other hand, players perceived the previous design as overcomplicated, didn't understand it, or thought it unnecessarily added too many capes. Similarly, as Mod Osborne said, the disparate opinions of the community are so strong that we will never get those opinions to meet. The previous design split players into the following 5 categories: skillers, lorehounds, explorers, activities, and PVMers. Over the course of a few months, that design was debated to have one critical issue. Comp Cape has never required difficult content, or anyone should reasonably be able to achieve the Comp Cape. Comp Cape is, by definition, a grindy cape. Of course, that difficulty aspect lay in one of the 5 categories, PVMers. In the words of Mod Jack, in terms of long-term philosophy of the game, if we are going to stick with the if comp means you do everything, then we can't have content that most players can do, or things like Elite Dungeon story to make it accessible. There are fundamentally two main types of completionists. Those that exclude difficult content and believe that the cape is only a grind cape, also in an effort to make the cape fair and accessible, and two, players that believe that completionism means completing to different extents every aspect of the game regardless of the difficulty, and if you cannot do said content, you do not deserve the cape. In particular, adding Sandy and Salty is for exactly the same type of every player as comp, completionist type, whereas Reaper is completely different type of player, whereas there might be coincidentally some overlap, completionist type. In essence, Jagex had to pick between completionist type players, type 2, and they chose the former, leaving type 2 players disillusioned, unhappy with the current proposal. So basically saying that the hardcore type players got left out, the type of players who think the all or nothing, who are you don't deserve the cape type of players, left out in the dust. If you didn't understand what the hell just went on in that sentence. Modjack is of the personal opinion that the spirit of comp lay in the type 2 players, but for the betterment of the game believes that comp should be type 1. And again, I actually am completely with Modjack. I am a type 2 player, but I believe that the game is probably for the best. Comp needs to be type 1. Does anyone agree or disagree or want to talk about that?
I'm sort of more a type 2 player. Just purely for the reason of, like, recently I've been playing Dark Souls. If someone came to me and said they'd completed it, oh, but I've not done the final boss, what would be the first thing you've said? Like, unless you've actually done it, then it's not a completionist. If anything, they need to change the friggin' name.
Right? I know. That's exactly what I was saying. It's like, you can't call it a completionist cape.
My idea for this is, for the first tier of it in the original design, I think that would have been like the top, that type of 1 player that they're describing. For the type 2, like that would be the beyond, like the trim or the tier 3 or whatever.
I would sort of have said that type 1 would have been everybody can do, as in the max bosses they have is God Wars 2, stuff like that everybody could do. And then the tier 2 would have been sort of your current comp cape. Tier 3 would have been trim.
Yeah, I was like the tier 4. I was feeling like is type 2 players. That's where I was going, right? Like, I don't know. And then I felt like tier 1 through 3 was supposed to be for people who could, obtain everything. I felt like they were giving everything for both players, but maybe I was misconstruing the design. I can move along here unless anyone else has anything to say.
I would say you're correct, but there's a lot of contention for like where X requirement should be, or what if
where the
Y should be like a requirement. Yeah, gotcha. That was a lot of back and forth in the Discord. Like I personally saw.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now. All right, so that's fair because everyone has different abilities, right? Like it's subjective to say where people's PVM skills are. General Gradors. We saw on that data stream that General Grador can be defeated in a single tick by somebody, but that's not me.
To be fair, like God Wars 1 bosses, you could, as long as you have the gear, you could click them and walk away from your computer and they'll be dead.
Yeah, yes, but not everyone has that gear or even the knowledge that gear exists, and that's just because they're cute noobs. But that's just the thing. I saw an adorable noob the other day, and I can't even remember the story, and I don't want to get sidetracked. But let me continue on here. It says, this is demonstrated from a few quotes. 1, my opinion is that stats removed, there's no reason we shouldn't add everything, but I'd like it to slow. 2, I think there's a bunch of stuff we can and should add in the future, but I'd like to keep it simple for now and add 3 big ones like Salty Sandy and the breeding log seems like a good number. Or 3, I work towards that to the extent I can because I believe it's an important, and personally I believe that, quote, comp should have everything is an ideal we should work towards. So these are like, I'm assuming the 3 kind of...
These are Mod Jack quotes.
Oh, these are like 3 of Mod Jack's opinions.
Let me just double check here.
Okay, yeah, these are
I think
all
they're
Mod
direct quotes. Yeah,
these are all Mod Jack quotes. Okay. 4, I get an abstract level of principle. You think you can comp. You should have everything. Personally, I totally agree. I've explained over and over again why I'm not applying my personal opinion in this case, and why I hope to be able to in the medium term. So, and I agree here, right? He's being fair about that. Like right now you can't do that because it would overwhelm people, but comp, if you're going to call it comp, it should envelop the entire game. It should be about...
Right. I think he's trying to, like, his idea for a happy medium is probably the best idea, because like you can't expect like 4K telos to be like a requirement for things like you have like what, less than 10 people that can do that, maybe 20.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a special case, though, to be fair, because it was deliberately meant to be scalable.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. So you wouldn't include a requirement like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could do the same on a Vaxor, I suppose. Scale its aggressiveness up as much as you wholly want. It wouldn't give you anything. It's just that Telos gives you something.
Yeah.
There's some like weird instances because like technically their first next boss is supposed to be a group boss, but now people just solo it like every day. Like, does that count now towards a single? Like, there's weird like subjective like gray area that they gotta have to like say yes or no to.
The 2 problems in question, like PVMers are forced to comp and compers forced to PVM.
I feel like that quote really speaks towards what the real problem is. And unfortunately, it solidifies what you said earlier, that skillers are kind of just left out.
Right.
But PVMers are forced to comp, and compers are forced to PVM, and skillers are left off in the distance. And their previous rework really, solved a lot of those problems.
Yeah. And then here we are now back to square one practically with this current state. Quote, if you start down the path of your reflexes are not that good and you aren't good at PVM, and that's the player type we do support and sympathize, then there's a lot of content in the game you can't do. It's not just Solak. And so as soon as we start looking at that from that perspective, who is actually prevented from participating in what content? Actually, we'd have to strip a lot from comps. So although there's a slight majority amongst non-compers have a different type of cape, there wouldn't be much left on the comp base. It'd be basically max plus some grindy requirements. Then any combat starts coming into the... this is a more difficult cape, and that affects minigames and quests. Can't kill Sliske, can't do dungeoneering unless you're leeching, and by extension, can't really max properly. Which, if you're leeching, then you can do anything bar a few solo content. When we tried to make a reflex-based cape and grindy cape, it didn't make any sense. So that's also kind of an interesting
statement.
Look into the design spec. 7, if you conceptually divide RuneScape into achievements that anyone can do given enough time, and achievements that certain players can't do even given a large amount of time, You've got all these hard achievements in combat, not much of it outside of combat. There's nothing in combat that isn't like that, because there aren't any achievements tied to like farming Avi demons. So actually, combat is hard by that definition. So it would basically be comp without combat, and comp without combat, except if I can't do any Reaper bosses, then I also can't do Sliske, which means I don't have Quest Cape, which means it is comp without combat, or all quests, or without minigames, etc. So actually, when we started looking at what comp without hard PVM content looks like, that's called the Max Cape. That's a little bit reductive, but that's essentially true. Based on that logic, our current plan is that Reaper stays on comp because combat belongs on comp, and Reaper belongs on combat. Therefore, without it, that sort isn't the comp cape. And I don't mean that in general principle of, oh, it should be everything in the game. I mean, if we start trying to remove hard PVM content from the comp cape, we just have to remove loads of stuff. The same logic applies if we try to remove group content. I could see us doing a special group trim or whatever, and that's relatively easy, and I don't have a final decision on that. Then the same logic applies, group content that can't be leached. Why just PVM group content? What about all group content? That is like PVM, like that is, there's so much confusion going on with what to do with PVM content, even in side questing. Go ahead.
If it's that hard, then why not just take Reaper off the actual comp cape, and then people can get the comp cape, and then if they want the, like, just add a trim to the cape, just add a gold trim around the outside if you've done Reaper.
Well, like I think as he said here, like there's certain bosses like within quests, like Sliske's endgame has a very difficult boss fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of what is it? Brink of Extinction has a really difficult boss fight. There are a few quests that have some hard boss fights in them. That are I'll tell you, Brink of Extinction now is a fairly old quest that's designed for EOC. It's not even that hard, but I say it's fairly difficult, and it requires you to use your reflexes, and if you have an anxiety disorder or anything along those lines, you will have issues with that quest. I didn't do that quest for a long time because of my anxiety and my lack of knowledge of EOC. And that was a barrier specifically because of, my real world disabilities. And yeah, I wholly blame that barrier not on anything but my own shortcomings as a disabled individual, not on their content. It was just my fault. It wasn't bad game content. I'm sure the quest was great. I just couldn't do it. And it just, maybe, they could tool the game differently, or, I needed to basically fight through my own handicap in that scenario. It was very painful for me to do it. I'm not asking Jagex to make a workaround for me. You can go ahead and remove it from Reaper, and yes, it would make my life easier, but I am not asking for that concession because it's called a completionist cape. I understand that. I know what I was getting myself into when I did that quest, and if I couldn't complete that quest, then that was that. Like I hated quests for a very good reason, because they gave me anxiety, they made me angry. Anyway, let me continue along here.
I remember your rage when we got you to do a Vaxor.
Oh God, I was.
That one Araxor kill that we went through together wasn't too bad.
I've gotten.
It was just the one.
Yeah, but... it's because that's about all I can handle after a good old. I got now that I'm fully medicated, I'm better. But back then,
I can understand that as well, because I took a break from the game for probably, I don't know when it was. It's probably been at least a year or so before I came back and maxed.
Yeah,
and I went back to my first Araxor kill after that, and I left it like physically shaking. Like my adrenaline was just through the roof, and I was super anxious. And now I can do a few hours of Arax a day, and it's just fine.
I can't.
It
even do like
it just to kind of getting back into it and getting comfortable. But I can understand like it's very anxiety inducing because there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Number 8. Anyone else want to get in before we go into number 8 here? All right. Number 8 is I agree that Sliske is easier than bosses. What you're asking is to have the comp cape set exactly where your capabilities are. If you think the quests are fine on comp but hard bosses aren't fine, then you're just asking for achievements to be set at your skill level, which isn't really fair. It either is just everything or it's nothing. There's no objective way to determine that boss is too hard for comp. It doesn't make any sense. And I agree. There's no subjective way to determine skill level in a massive group of players across varying demographics and skill level. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't do it. Number 9, I don't make decisions unilaterally. Again, fits with number 8 and 7. 10, I keep getting told what to do, quote, what the players want. Except the players type 1 isn't the same as what the PVM community wants. In type 2, the players as a whole will almost certainly vote to have comp be easier, and I agree with the whole people who say that not really an issue to be decided by the audience, which is why we're not just throwing our hands up and deciding that question with a poll.
That's kind of when your teacher, polls the class on something on whether you should do this or that. Of course, everybody's going to go for the easier option.
Yeah, then that's how your teacher says, this is not a democracy.
Exactly, yes.
It doesn't seem like it really...
I do like how he says that, and yet they changed the design proposal because of what people said.
Right. Exactly, yeah. And then it completely overhauls it, right. It doesn't seem like it really answers anything, so I'm trying to find is a compromise which gives the majority what they think they want, while it still gives something rather than nothing to the PVM community, some reward and recognition for their accomplishments rather than no such acknowledgement. If heroic cape doesn't make you feel valued, then that's useful feedback, which makes a bad design. But so far, all the negative has been either stop adding more capes or everything should be on comp, with various reasons why. So no real feedback into what would be valued, just stop adding more capes. Which I'm not, I say keep adding more capes. I love capes. I love titles.
Why is adding more capes an issue?
I don't know. I love titles too. Go ahead.
I think they're more afraid of like new player or returning players like impressions. Like if you came back into the game and you saw like these 12 new capes, you'd have to look at either a wiki to know what they were and kind of like, oh, so this is like this tier. What? Like, I think that's what they're trying to prevent. But it doesn't fulfill or satisfy like the current player base. I think it's just for just for returning players.
Yeah, but looking at a wiki is part of this game.
And on Monday, you'll be able to type /wiki right into the game box.
I think that's pretty neat.
Me too. I can't wait for that. Number 11, the fundamental problem is that it gatekeeps comp, a type of content for a player, behind endgame PVM, a different type of content for a different type of player. You might say comp shouldn't be for the first type of player, but it already is. That way, Reaper is such a contentious topic literally all the time. People have been working on comp for longer than Reaper has existed. Whatever we might abstractly think of the principles behind it, the vast, vast majority of content on comp is grinds, skilling grinds, and minigame grinds. And that's true. I mean, you have a very divided community on comp. It's either you're either one of those like IFB compers, or you are like a mini game. I've been sitting in Castle Wars for 800 years comper. Number 12, I see this strictly as a medium-term problem at a personal level. I'm completely with the proposition comp should have everything on it. It's called the completionism cape FFS. But I don't design based on what I personally believe to make the most sense. I have to take into account what would be best for the game. If we can fix the specific content, which is creating this whole issue, then in the long term, it no longer exists. Okay? Fundamentally, the question is, should unsuitable content be removed from comp until it's fixed and then be added, or should it be kept on comp until it's fixed? And from a game's health point of view, the answer has to be the former. Interesting. So remove it and then re-add it. I agree. Yeah, I would agree. Don't keep it on there. Number 4, I want it and I don't want others to have it are irrelevant to me. I care about RuneScape, the game. If putting 4K Telos at Tier 1 makes RuneScape a better game, judged in aggregate by the player base, I'd do it. If removing it made it better, I would do that. My job is to try to judge where that stuff has to go. Yeah, that's right. Not what makes, players happy, or makes a specific, not makes all players happy, but makes a niche of players happy. That's the right thing to say and do. I don't know if that necessarily is what happens every time, but it sure is the right thing to say on camera. T3 comp equals true crime. Yeah, Magebit. True trim subject to going through and agreeing on the community's definition of true trim. And I was hoping the T4 would be true trim, but whatever. Number 16, possibly adding extra tiers of cape, such as trim, true trim, whereas true has to be insane requirements and not achievable by most players. Moving along to the next session here, it says, his long-term personal solution is to make the difficult content more accessible so that it can be added back to its rightful place on comp. Since he believes in Type 2 completionism. So I'm going to run down the board here real quick. I'm a Type 2 completionist. Is anyone else here raise your hand or in vocal if you're a Type 2 completionist.
Can you define exactly what it is one more time?
Type 2 completionist is somebody who believes that you need to complete everything in the game to be a completionist, whereas Type 1 completionist is somebody who believes the completionist cape is a cape that should have items on it that should be completable by everyone in the game, not necessarily.
I'm for sure a Type 2 completionist then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I really feel like it should just be the entirety of what the game consists of.
Welcome, David. Are you here to listen, David, or are you here to talk?
He is for now. His phone's charging, and he's going to comment into live chat.
Cool.
If that's cool.
Commenting in live chat. I'll switch over to live chat. This document... All right, I have live chat open for now. That's good for me then, and we will continue on. So Type 2 for you. I'm a Type 2 as well. Blade, where are you?
I fall somewhere in the middle. Like, for a regular baseline completionist, I kind of agree with Type 1 being it. But anything above that, like, again, if they were doing the Tier 2, Tier 3, that I would say is Type 2. Just simply because I feel like I don't know how to, I guess, best describe it, but I feel like completionism, like, for the Tier 1s, that should be something, like, people can generally work towards and grab and gravitate towards. I think the Tier 2 and Tier 3 would be, like, the more standout portion of it.
Gotcha. Okay. And Storm, how about yourself?
I'm definitely a Type 2. If something's easy to get, it has no value. That's personally how I look at it.
That's how I feel. It's like if everyone's walking around with, I understand that's not going to be the case because it's going to be probably like 800 hours of stuff that you have to put in to get the cape in general. But there's just so many veterans in the game that a lot of people are going to end up with it. I feel like a lot of people are going to log in and just have it on day one because it's going to be so easy to get. That's my feel. Anyway, technical trouble. He can't hear us. Oh, that stinks.
I actually think you got to take care of now.
Oh, okay. Anyway, let's. We're mostly Type 2 completionists, sounds like, or at least somewhere in between. It sounds like the only one who's not a Type 2 completionist is the only one who has a trimmed completionist cape, ironically. But let's talk.
I can sentiment with that as well, that the trimmed comp should be everything in the game, and just regular comp can have like a compromise of some sort. I'd have to agree. I didn't know in between was an option.
It's not really, but
yeah,
that would be fair. I don't offer a compromise, but in my own morals. But you can if you want to compromise your morals, that's fine. Anyway, let's continue on here. So it says here, number 1, I believe the correct long-term solution to the paradox of comp requiring everything but some content being intentionally inaccessible. I've explained this ad nauseum, but we know when content is intentionally designed to be inaccessible to the majority. It's not some arcane science which requires a complex constitution to decipher. It's pretty obvious. My long-term aspiration to introduce accessibility modes and then be able to put everything back on comp is unchanged. I need to point out again, though, that that's not Jagex's policy. That's my aspiration. And that's exactly what I was hoping to hear, is just add noob modes, just add, story modes to everything, basically. Like we've seen in Elite Dungeons. You add easy modes to things, and then bam, you've basically given accessibility. You've basically given access to comp to everybody. Now, it's not perfect, but it's, it means you've seen the content at the very least, right?
Yeah, you experience it.
It gives you that type 1 completionism. It's not perfect. It's not it's not my brand of completionism, but it's a type of completionism, and it's, it's good enough for the game. And that's when it comes to RuneScape, like, I may not be willing to compromise my own morals for completionism as what I define it as, but I am certainly willing to compromise it for the health of the game. So it says, number 3, when you asked, you identified some bosses as selective niches for content and would like to see that changed so more people can enjoy that content, right? Personally, yes. Not as part of this project. That's more a long-term thing to fight for. That this certainly what I will advocate, but that is not official policy. Doing it on future bosses is actually easier than doing it on past bosses. Of course, the spaghetti code. Number 5, I get it. It's frustrating that I can't assure you that XYZ will happen. Optimistically, from my point of view, this is a short-term blip in the completionism, which will hopefully correct, i.e. by adding it all back after accessibility, but again, I can't promise that. I have aspirations for how I will handle Reaper, but that's a much more complicated long-term project. On accessibility mode for Solak, that will be a what I expect, yes, to put in heroic, but that's just me making a plan. Like I said, to see would push for not official Jagex policy. Seems to me this whole controversy is a content problem, not a conf problem. So the long term, I'd like to address it as a content issue, but in the short term, we would need to fix comp regardless. So, back to the narrative, it says, the issue I have with this, and I believe many others, although I could be wrong in thinking this, is that this is comp batch 2-esque and content, and I believe that the quote blip in completionism referred to above is that gap in no Reaper and post-accessibility Reaper bringing back on comp would either, 1, never arrive, or 2, ruin Reaper. And I agree that there's a big danger in gapping that for sure. But also, not gapping it, there's a danger in the whole project never getting released in general, and seeing like a 4-year, like basically what happened to mining and smithing.
Or the bank rework.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he's adding accessibility modes and heroic mode, which would be the difficulty is now, does that mean that the accessibility modes would get drops?
That's a good question. Good.
No, it would have to be no drops.
Yeah, probably.
No drops, no XP, nothing. Yeah, you get nothing.
You get nothing. You lose. You go home empty-handed.
Yeah, I mean, this also seems silly to me. I don't really like any of this stuff.
The thing is, if you're doing it with no drops, no XP, you're not really making the content accessible. You're simply putting an easy mode in for people who want comp.
Right, which is...
That's not accessibility, is it? Like, the only way they make it accessible is if they reduce the drops by 90%, because the damage is reduced by 90%.
Yeah, I guess
that's going to crash stuff.
I mean, they could reduce the drops by 90% and not add rares to the drop table, so you can't roll on any of the rare drops, and you can't roll on pet. But like, this all idea is weird to me. Like, if this is a thing, why can't there be an accessibility mode for all quests? Like, why? Like, for example, Sliske's endgame was really hard for me. It took me like many hours to do. Probably like as many hours as it might take someone to learn Telos, for example. And I found it really frustrating and not fun. Why not have accessibility mode for quests where I only have to do one puzzle? And then, like, for Sliske's endgame, I only want to do one room of the maze, and then I get to skip to the end of the quest. Like, why don't all quests also have accessibility modes that make it super easy to do if this is a thing? Or, like, why can't I have accessibility modes for construction where I have 30 times faster XP?
Speed.
Like, I don't know, like either Reaper. I kind of think either Reaper is part of comp or it's not, and I think either way is fine. It's, you know, I think I'm okay with it not being part of it, but I don't.
And I think it's half-assed in the middle is like
I think it's fine for there to be learner modes are great. Like practice mode is awesome. There should be better practice modes. Like, for example, you practice one phase. Like at Solak, might be one phase where you really struggle. Like being able to practice mode just that phase over and over and over would be awesome. Telos, most people struggle with the final phase. Just being able to practice that phase would be great. But I don't know. I'm definitely now on the side of it's fine for this to not be a comp rec. But I don't know why. Like, why does doing content that's 10% is tough? Like, why should that unlock something? I guess I don't know. That seems silly to me.
I think because this is like more of an old quote from like Mod Jack. I don't think it's on here, but the idea of like comp is that you are an experienced player, that you have experienced everything, and I think that would suffice in like you've experienced like this type of content, like you understand the basics or like a run up.
But like. So, like, at 10% damage is not learning the basics. It's just, like, not... It's like questing with only having to do 1 out of every 10 puzzles. You're like, it's not...
It would be the equivalent...
That's not the content. Like, it just isn't.
It would be the equivalent of completing a quest with a quest guide, basically. That is the idea of being able to do it, is like saying, like, hey, you completed the quest, but you ran through it with a quest guide and did it in 2 minutes. And that's, I think, what they're trying to be able to give is like, hey, yeah, you went there, you saw the boss, you saw its mechanics, you didn't die, and you got to the end of it. You don't get anything for it, but you did get to see everything about it. Now you know what it looks like. I don't agree with this. I'm a type 2 completionist. I'm not a type 1 completionist. I'm merely trying to rationalize it. But that's I believe what the sentiment is and why they're trying to push for it. So that's the idea. That's what they're putting on the table. And I can see why. I can see at least the logic behind it. I think it's a flawed logic, but I understand why they're trying to pitch it. It makes sense. I just don't think it's good sense. Go ahead.
I am with you entirely, Mage. I agree conceptually. People's desire for something like this to exist. Yeah. But I don't understand it beyond that. So I think it sounds like we're on a very similar page. So I'll stop talking.
Yeah, no, it's just, it's a good, and I mean, it comes from a place of, in my mind, for me, because I've been playing RPGs all my life, and I think a lot of it comes from me playing Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I probably have like 8,000 hours in that game. And I literally just probably played that game backwards and forwards, found everything in it, and just completed the crap out of it. And that's how I used to play all of my like N64 games. That just was that was like the last one I played on the console probably, and still break it out like once or twice a year. But I bring it up because like those are the types of games that I remember completing. And RuneScape, because of how old it is that it's from that era of games. Like silly enough because it's 18 years old. It's from Nintendo 64, like just turned 25 years old. But RuneScape's like on the border of, I know, right? So that's what I see completionism as, is like if you don't have every little piece, every note, every puzzle piece, every little that's my idea. If I don't see 103% on my file, like I'm not done. I have more to do. And I admire the people who want to tick off those things in their adventurers log sooner than later. I do too, but I feel like you're cheating yourselves. Like, I want to tick off Solak just as much as you do, but adding in an accessibility mode and getting it done that way would make me feel like I've cheated. And
it kind of feels like they're just pandering.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
I would rather pay them, at least if I've paid billions, not billions, but all right, at least if I pay like 500 million gold, at the very least I've used the power of my character.
Yeah.
To do that. Like I've transferred my wealth. I've had to use my wealth. If you've put in a practice mode, I've done nothing, literally, but just shown up. And you've like literally, I've just stood in a fast pass lane, and that's all, and that's just it's a cheapening of the game, and that's all I'll say. But I'm not gonna stand against it because I also feel like we need the players at the same time. So I'm also not gonna if that's what it takes to keep people from quitting the game. Fine.
That's actually a way I had not considered it before. The fact that you want to retain and build a player base around a lot of this, the decisions they make, which I guess makes sense, obviously, but I just never thought about that.
That's a lot of where my arguments get dropped at is if there's a community that's has a large enough pushback that's like, no, we will not remain in the game unless we can chase comp because of these requirements, unless you move Reaper off or add us practice modes into Reaper or whatever the F. It's like, all right, fine, we have to pander to these people, and it is what it is. I would rather pander to a group of people than see them leave the game, and it's sometimes it's better to make concessions than to lose support from a community. Let me continue on here. Unless go ahead.
Yeah. I have. So thinking about it now, like if they did add an accessibility mode, like a story mode for like Solak and things like that, that might actually be an interesting alternative to practice mode. So you can learn the mechanics without like the fear of dying.
Yeah,
like there might actually be some benefit to it than just
I mean that's
easier.
As long as there's no loot, as long as they're not getting, as long as their character is not monetarily gaining anything, practice modes don't bother me.
Yeah, me neither.
I wouldn't mind that, to be honest. Though I'd want it at full damage.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer full damage too.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be nice to set it at either one.
Yeah, I would prefer.
Well, I lost 30 mil yesterday trying to learn P5 on Telos. I'd rather not have lost that 30 mil. I knew I wasn't going to complete it. I just trying to learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
believe me, we've all lost hundreds of mils trying to learn Telos. But I mean, my friends chat has sold hundreds of Reaper titles, and we've never failed to sell one ever. Like we don't fail; it doesn't happen. And so I think it's funny that I don't know. I'd just be curious about what % of people who have completionist cape but like what their thoughts on Reaper if they bought Reaper, just because I know a lot of people have bought Reaper because I've personally sold so many Reapers.
I mean, I bought the Solak kill, but that was mainly because I did not wish to, like, I knew I was not going to engage in Solak post like getting that one kill, so I didn't want to spend like the 8 or 10 hours it would take like to learn it as a duo with someone new in practice mode, and then like do it. Like, it just was not for me. It was not a feasible use of my time. I could eventually do it, but because I wasn't going to do it post that, like I didn't see a point of like actually doing the practice.
I'm sort of half on that board and half on the board of, because of the way I play the game, I take a few months off quite often. So actually finding a duo partner who would like be willing to put up with that is quite difficult.
Yeah, well, so that's a great point about Solak in particular. People kind of buying that one because they didn't think they'd ever learn it. So I've sold tons of Solak Reapers, but if you look way back when Raids 1 was released, like Yakamaru and Beastmaster, the forums were basically set on fire with comp cape owners complaining about Reaper title and PVM FCs being bullies and charging too much money and how they'll never be able to do the content, et cetera, et cetera. And now, like, Raids is like, Yakamaru is not something I think that people consider terribly difficult anymore. So while we feel that way about Solak now, my guess is a year and a half from now, Solak 7s will not be considered this like upper echelon elitist content. But in the same way that Beastmaster, Durzeg, and Yakamaru are, like, for the most part, definitely not thought of in the same way. So I think I kind of find that to be interesting too, that basically the blame shifts to different bosses. Like, whatever the newest group boss is now like the ultimate evil villain who is ruining the game and ruining comp for everyone, but like in 2 years something else will come out that's way harder than Solak, and Solak will not be considered super tough anymore, I think.
What's your friend's chat, David? What's the name of your friend's chat?
It's called Quality PVM Leeches or something. We recently changed the title. It used to be DC Leech.
Oh, okay.
But now it's like Quality Leeches or something like that. You can find us on the forums. They have a Discord. But
that's cool.
Yeah, definitely sold a lot of Solak.
I think half of it as well is a lot of the people who do comp, they're not necessarily hardcore PVMers. Like, I'm not particularly hardcore. I'll do anyone that you can solo myself. But the group bosses I'm not that interested in. I can do them. I can do AOD and stuff like that, but I'm not interested in them. So whenever a new group boss comes out, I have to go about finding a clan that will do it, and 90% of the time, hardcore PVMers have their groups preset already, so they're not interested in bringing new people in.
In terms of day of release, I knew when a new boss comes out, like when AOD came out, I had my team ready weeks beforehand. You're totally right. I mean, we're definitely elitist. It's true. But eventually,
it's not necessarily being elitist. It's just, you know, the people and you know that they can do it right. I mean, I know I've been in with you a few times doing raids, I believe. And you had me doing damn near every role. It was a good while ago, like, but
yeah, sure. Like, yeah, no, I remember that.
As far as the first couple of months, like, you can't expect to get a team if you're not into group bossing a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. It takes a little while, but eventually French chats get going. Solak is a bit of a strange case. For some reason, I think people particularly struggle with that boss just because it's so mechanic intensive, but I don't know, like AOD had some French chats going within a couple weeks, that if you passed like a DPS trial, then you can join teams with them. Although I guess you have to pass a DPS trial to do that, which maybe is challenging.
And AOD wasn't as like restrictive for comping because you could mass it as well.
Yeah, you could just mass it. Yeah,
same with like
that was real easy. So you can just mass it.
Cool. Remember masses? I haven't been to a mass. It's KK. Remember?
If you ever want a KK mass with me, Mage, I need people to come KK with me. I'm trying to get that IFV, you know.
No, don't go with Mage. He will steal your pet. I still haven't forgiven him for the court beast.
It's my only combat pet still, by the way.
I hate you.
I'm at like 21 pets or something like that. But like,
well, if it makes you feel any better, I raced Parnassius to Master of All, and he trounced me in like a week. Oh my god, he got all of the pets in like literally a week's time, and I'm struggling still with. I got like 3 left to go, and I can't get them.
It was just purely that I had, I think it was 2 thresholds on you, and you were only getting 1 in 20 kills.
I got like none of the kills.
You still managed to get it.
The 1 kill. I think I got 2 kills out of the whole trip. And out of the 2 kills, I got the freaking the pet. That was great. I love it. Oh, that's one of my favorite RuneScape stories of all time. That's up there with the bronze dagger for the red party hat trade. Bronze longsword. Sorry. Anyway, continuing.
But I've never heard this story.
You never heard that story?
No, you don't have to tell it right now if you don't want to. But
it's not a long story. It's my friend in RuneScape Classic back when party hats were only like 100K, like RuneScape, like old school RuneScape. Traded a dragon longsword, which looked exactly like a dragon. Looked like exactly like a bronze longsword. Traded his red party hat for it, and and it was a bronze longsword. And that was a pretty bad scam.
Oof.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't have been trading it in the first place, because, kind of worth billions now. And he just came back to the game, and he would have that on his account right now if he was, not an idiot. But, oh well. Let me read the next one here. The solution proposed in the previous design was to branch off the content pertaining to a difficulty onto the heroic track aimed at Type 2 players. The heroic track would have trimmed the equivalent tier. It just totally hit me that he came back to the game and he would have had that right now. I believe they were on the right track with this. 1. Quests aren't relevant to heroic because a heroic quest cape isn't something we need. Because Endgame is not serious blocker to comp, while Solak is. That's interesting. That they consider they don't consider quests a blocker. I mean, that's fair. Quests is not really a blocker, unless you're Magebit.
Maybe they take a lot of time. Like it definitely takes more time to do all.
I've never had the quest cape. Never.
Really?
Never have I had the quest cape.
Interesting.
I'm just saying. So, like, they say that, but I've never, ever held the regular quest cape. Ever. So, number 1, can suck my longsword. Number 2, skilling is not relevant to heroic because the max cape is not a serious blocker to comp, but Solak is. I'm not saying the principle is that all content not designed for 100% of players belongs on a heroic cape, but I'm saying there exists the design a heroic cape which is problematically challenging PVM content. People are arguing that what it is and isn't on it is super subjective. I'm explaining that it's not. The content intentionally exists at extreme ends of difficulty and inaccessibility. We don't need to measure that or quantify that. We know it's true because it's like that on purpose. The line is content which has intentionally been made to be inaccessible and appealing to only a niche elite audience and is quote-unquote heroic. So that's pretty simple. Only content that crazy people like David would want to do. But also not really.
Even just crazy people like you going for a bunch of 120s. Like
because it's just for people who play too much RuneScape, I guess. Because because it's people who want to do 120s, people who want to do Solak, and it's apparently not people who want to do all quests, because apparently that's not crazy. But like I've never done all quests, so. Like, again, subjective. It's all subjective, but Mod Jack thinks he knows everything. And I generally agree with that, but not this time. I'm generally think Mod Jack drops the wisdom bombs, but for this one specific time, I'm a little off base with him on that, because all quests, though I do agree, the quest cape specifically probably is not a heroic item. I do just want to say I've never had the Runescape, and I think all quests probably takes more time than learning Solak. Although if learned the Solak specifically, maybe outclassed as far as like the difficulty than doing all the quests. Like it may be just a more difficult thing. I don't know. Continue.
Wasn't Sasuke's endgame intentionally difficult though? Like maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm just bad at puzzles.
It was puzzles, and the even the end fight like had.
Oh, I forgot there was an end fight.
Yeah,
you're right.
I get
Lord
reports
of Vampirium had a hard boss too.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you go and watch, I put that. That's another video of mine. If you want to go and watch, that's pre-medicated Magebit right there. Lord of Vampirium quest, I did not do the best job of containing my anger. I was all right, but I didn't do an amazing job.
Do you have that in your highlights on Twitch?
I'm pretty sure I uploaded that to YouTube. I'll go find it afterwards.
That's okay. I'm looking for it right now.
Yeah, see if you can find that. I'd love it. I want to actually see. I want to see how he reacted to that. So yeah, let's see here. Anyway, I'll continue on while you're looking for that. I mean, your analysis is correct, he goes on to say, but your argument is almost exactly, quote, if you have to choose between PVM Type 2 and not PVM Type 1, you should choose PVM because it better fits the dictionary definition. Now, that's, I think, just because they've made more feats of difficulty in the PVM category. Like, it's just been made to order that way. There's been more things that way. So, once content has been made in the skilling category that is dangerous and difficult, then we can add heroic things to that side. It just, there isn't.
Don't you get back to the same thing of how do you make something difficult without making it PVM?
Yeah, we got the dangerous. We got the mining shafts. Remember those?
Dangerous what?
The mining shafts. We were talking about those back before Pernasius got lost in one. We're still waiting for him to find his way out. Number 7. Good.
I just feel like if they made a Solak level difficulty skilling boss, like are people who currently describe themselves as skillers going to do something like that? Like if like I'm just thinking about like I don't know, the meta at a skilling boss being like one ticking stuff with your action bar to maintain your skilling per second.
You know
rates
how you know how you have like the 4-tick trick thing that one where you have to do it for a minute.
Yeah. 4-tick auto tech. Yeah.
No. There's one for the mining and smithing.
Rework. 4-tick mining.
There's an achievement where if you do it for a minute straight, I want one where you have to do it for an hour straight. That sounds
awesome.
That would be amazing. I would do that.
It is hard too to picture exactly what a skilling boss would be.
I mean, just log into old school RuneScape.
Do they have a skilling boss?
They have
that at all.
There's a fire making thing, but I don't think that's actually like well designed.
It's not. I mean, Pernasius designed one for us. I think he might have gotten swallowed by it, though. Do you want me? I'm not going to read it on this show because he's already read it before, but I do have it. I can send it to you if you want to see it, because I have a copy of it in my Dropbox.
Yeah, I'd love to read it sometime.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's great. It's about a sea monster.
Sick.
Yeah, it's really good. I was like, this is actually perfect. And apparently I'm not logged in Drop. I'll grab it after the show for you. Where am I? Number 7. If there were an equivalent type of content for skilling, I would definitely split that off into heroic too, but there isn't. My job is to find the least bad compromise. Well, good luck. And finally, it says, hence me saying to the PVMers, the question isn't should we put it on heroic or normal. It's given that it can't go on normal, Is it heroic or nothing? In my opinion, heroic is far better than nothing. I propose adding back the heroic tracks. This is Sudi talking now. We can even go all the way and completely divorce any bossing from the comp cape and put it into heroic. New milestones between max and comp was the restriction that was making the project so complicated. The overwhelming piece of feedback that we got was essentially, no one was asking for this. That was an update we got that gave us because we thought the game needed. Excuse me. That was not ongoing long term. That was an ongoing long term problem that got brought up with comp a lot. So we can cut away from all the subcapes. If we remove the remainder of the previous design, we're left with this. So we have a 3-tier design with 5 capes and I guess 1 comp cape and 1 heroic cape. So there's the lore, skills, combat areas, and activities cape, which combine into the comp cape. And then there's also a heroic cape. And the comp cape, the tier 1 comp cape, is the combination of those capes. The tier 2 comp cape is the true comp cape, combining of the tier 2 of all of the capes, and the tier 3 combination of all capes is the insane comp cape. And obviously, the completing all of the tier 1 heroics would gain you that heroic cape, same being for the tier 2 of the heroic, same being for the tier 3 of the heroic. I assume you would have to complete the heroics devoid of anything. Like, I don't think they would be attached to anything else. I'm not 100% sure of that. I don't know.
It appears that's what it is, right? So like if you, although I don't know, I that's confusing to me. Like, is the heroic tier 1 comp plus heroic achievements?
So yeah,
I imagine it'd have to be, right? It'd have to be.
Yeah, from my understanding, it's just like you get your regular comp, trim, insane, and then if you have heroic, that gets attached to those tiers.
And he speaks down below like the comp cape is without Reaper, and then heroic comp cape is like with Reaper.
Okay, that makes sense. So I jumped into this a little bit late. Is the proposal also that stats should be given to heroic but not to regular?
Stats will be attached to Reaper, is my understanding.
Okay, so they're maintaining that. Okay.
Yeah, and well, this is just a proposal from somebody on Reddit.
Yeah, this is Sudi's proposal.
Yeah, no, I get that part.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's so funny. It really seems like everyone seems to be on board that the new version of the compromise is awesome, but people are sad that they don't have pretty new colors and new comp capes. It seems like everyone, like, that's what this seems like to me, is just a really long-winded explanation of like,
we want color comp cape.
I want like new graphics on the comp cape.
I do think it'd be pretty cool to see a skilling cape and things like that.
I like down here. I was just scrolling down where you're talking, and it just says no Reaper noob comp.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So it says you're from
Castle Wars noob trim.
Yeah, are you kidding me? I'm doing trim recs right now. They're ridiculous. Also, yeah. if they add salty and sandy, oh my god, I'm going to be doing nothing but trim recs for like a year.
Have you started the statue yet?
Yeah, I did. I'm on 26 weeks left or something. I just started.
This is exactly why that everyone was up in arms, and the first rework got turned into what we have now, because everyone was like, "Holy crap! I don't want all these freaking things to do. I can't do all these requirements." So we ended up with the simplified design.
Yeah.
So anyway, shall I continue on to Sudi's proposal here? Or,
yeah, sure. So I keep interrupting.
No, continue interrupting if you have more to say.
I'm good now.
All right. It says here, as you can see, and judging by the past discourse, completionist cape type 2 players feel that combat is a vital part of the game and thus should be appropriately represented on the comp cape. Naturally, they'll feel as if the base version aren't complete. Thank you, Jagex, for not caving into the complainers and removing requirements. They can have their participation capes. This is what the rework looks like from the eyes of those that say there should be a rework. The capes are perfectly fine. Again, we have the heroic trim comp, which is current trim, and they have a red version of the comp cape here. Heroic comp cape, which is the current comp cape, and they've turned it green. It says, well, not 1-to-1. These are the closest capes to pre-rework. The biggest one being the No Castle Wars, with Jagex adding requirements over time. Thank you, Jagex, for not shelving the rework. It was horrible. This is what the rework looks like from the eyes above and beyond insane completionists. So we have heroic insane comp, the only cape that matters basically to type 2 people, and then insane comp being the only cape that matters, I assume. Let's see here. So the RuneScape player base is very goal and reward focused. You don't need to tell me that twice, which makes sense to me. The heroic insane comp cape is the rarest cape which true trimmers aim for. I believe all the substantial RNG, long and difficult requirements should be on there. I've excluded 200 mil in all the proposal as per Jack's views, with my current definition of insane, 5.4 billion, doesn't belong on it. Comp tier 2 is the complete everything except stuff which is unreasonable. Insane tier 3 complete everything even if it is unreasonable, but 5.4 billion isn't actually an in-game objective of any sort. It's just the cap on a number. 200 million is as relevant as lots on an old XP tracker. That doesn't mean I don't think it deserves recognition, but I don't think it fits the definition of content. The old tier 3 requirement of 120 all would be a requirement. Thank you, Jagex, for finally giving top-end completionists something to aim for. So here we have Sudi's proposal. Satisfies those that need only Reaper to comp or Castle Wars to trim. Satisfies those that believe combat is crucial and inalienable part of comp. Satisfies the extreme completionists. Well, satisfies those who want the rework scrapped. Unites the community. Has something for everyone. Satisfies those that have been asking for different particle colors since 2011. Satisfies the people who said it was overcomplicated. Satisfies the people who said stop making so many capes, Jagex. And on a number of capes as positive, Mod Jack originally stated that the ideal total number of capes is the minimum possible number of capes that achieves updated goals. And fundamentally, I see heroic not as a new cape, but a different set of particles and or trim on an existing cape. That's great because this design brings the number of new capes to 0 or 1 if you add insane as a cape. My argument would be irrespective of attitudes to comp, but comp exacerbates this hugely, that there should not be content in the game which only a minority can participate in, but it's fine for there to be modes and possibly drops which only a minority can access. This way, CompCape, the content, is accessible with heroic modes that only a minority can access on heroic tier 3 before scrap, but also my proposal does exactly that. The highest end cape will require all the content in game. It satisfies company game direction, accessibility, and it does not understand PVM only players may, it will not understand, or he will not understand PVM only. I don't know why there's an X here. I'm trying to fulfill the X's role here. I understand PVM only players may be left unsatisfied, but it has to be remembered that this is fundamentally a comp cape rework, not a PVM cape update. What PVM want is not a comp cape centric PVM update. They do not want grindy requirements like IFB, which is what comp cape is about. They want a PVM challenge cape. This is why they were unhappy about the previous design and why I think it is beyond the scope of this project. That's an interesting thought. So I wonder if that is true. Got any thoughts on that?
So I would say as a PVMer, no one the real truth of what we want is any content that they spend effort making that isn't a new end game difficult select level boss is content that is not particularly relevant to us. So I guess this is all fine. I'm not saying any of these ideas are bad. They all seem totally fine. But if you really want to know what PVMers want, it's not a PVM challenges cape. It's more challenges to do, period.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. New challenges, more difficult challenges, not necessarily the same challenges rehashed into a fancy cape. Am I getting that?
Yeah, exactly. And titles are a great way to signal. That's always how it's been for PVMers, like Gold Warden, Silver Warden, IFB, things like that.
Uh-huh.
And I think the idea is just that, from what I know, I don't know anything about coding, but my assumption is that it's easier to code a title than a new cape. And so, I would rather them do that. Although, of course, I understand content's not one-to-one like that. And, it's that things are complicated and not all people at Jagex can do bossing work, but maybe some of them could do this work. So clearly that's not how it works, but just if you're going to make a broad sweeping statement about what PVMers want, it's more bosses, and that's about it.
Gotcha.
All right.
I would say more bosses of all difficulties, really. Variety in there.
Right. Unfortunately, I have to dip. I just want to say, for this proposal, though, I'm fine with this as it is, what Sudi suggested. I'm fine with this or the previous design. I think it's actually really well put for what.
I appreciate you dropping in and joining us for this, and thank you for your input on it.
All right, take care, guys.
Take care. Thanks for joining.
This is infinitely better than the original proposal, and this document is super well written. So that's pretty good.
I'm really hoping that this document is able to kind of
gain some traction.
Yeah, I'm hoping it steers them back on course at the very least, and brings them back from the simplified design. I can't guarantee that it will. That's why I'm doing the podcast about it, though. I'm hoping that by doing the podcast about it, it will maybe bring. It got a few hundred upvotes. I'm pretty sure it was at the top. It had the front page at the very least on Reddit, right? So
yeah.
So I'm hoping that if it gets enough attention overall, that maybe it will get retooled again.
So I missed the beginning. Is everyone pretty much on board with my opinion, which is just if picking between simplified design and the old convoluted version, simplified is way better. I know that there were some people who are upset initially on release with them scrapping it, and I kind of get that, but I felt that the rework was quite bad. And just there was, I liked basically nothing about it. But I don't know, is that an opinion you share? I do like this more than the simplified version, but I like the simplified version more than the old version, I guess is what I'm saying.
I'd have to say I'm pretty much on that same level as well. The original rework felt very just overly complicated. And not that it's not easily understandable, it's just convoluted. And so I do like the simplified version more than that, but I also like this more than the simplified version.
Okay, yeah. You just convoluted for no good reason. I'm fine with things being complicated. That's whatever, but it was bizarrely complicated. it was strange. It was strange. It was not well designed.
I think it was one of those things you'd have to see in game to understand properly.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a good. That doesn't sound good. You got to see it to believe it. No thanks.
I think
I'm not into that. Not for video games.
I don't know. How many bosses do you go in where they can explain the mechanics? You still have no idea what happens. until you go.
Well, maybe. Yeah, sure. I guess that's true. But the bossing is something I want to be difficult and convoluted and chaotic. I don't want to spend like 10 minutes figuring out what achievements I need to do. It's not fun.
Seemed like it was more of a pen and paper design, and then when you brought it and tried to put it into practice, it was like, whoa, this is just too much overhead to actually apply into an already working design to make it not fall apart. So we need to simplify this. And yes, the simplified design fits and works in the game, but it's overly simple. I mean, here's where I stand. I mean, I'm fine with simplified design. I would have been fine with the complicated design as well. I'm also fine and happy with this Sudi's proposal here.
The next bolded comment I really like as well. Sorry, go ahead, David.
I just said he's an easy man to please.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the great thing about me here is I was neutral from the start on this whole thing, which is why I was going to be. I was hoping to have Pernasius here and Hannah here because they both they were both very strong, had both very strong opinions and dissenting opinions on it, and I have no opinion on it. I don't give a shit because I'm not going to comp anytime soon. Probably not in the next like 2 to 3 years. So
can someone clip? Here's the great thing about me. And then I don't give a shit and put them back to back so we can start adding that as like a drop or something.
You have like a soundboard.
yeah, this is a good soundboard thing.
This is a good thing to play whenever someone subscribes on Twitch.
Here's the great thing about me. I don't give a shit.
That's and anytime I get a donation like over $25, that's just so I'm just super like inappreciative.
I like that.
This next bolded comment: if all else fails, please make a 100% rune score cape while retroactively adding all in game content to the achievement system over time. I really like that idea as well. Not necessarily if all else fails, but just the idea of a 100% rune score cape too, because that would be like just crazy to have everything done.
I love rune score. I almost forgot about rune score.
What is your rune score, by the way?
I don't know.
Actually, no, I'm more curious. What's your rune score, David?
Mine? Oh, I'd have to log in and find out.
Mine's in the 9,000s. I know that.
I'm into this rune score thing. I think to me the best design is simplified design plus runes, plus 100% rune score.
Well, here's the thing.
Just 3 capes: current comp, current trim, in not current as in what they're going to be turned into, and then add a third cape, which is 100% rune score.
I love rune score because it's great for competitions. Every time they release a batch of rune scores, I can run a competition because I know it's not like rigged or riggable. You know, you can't buy keys or anything to do it or easily generally. Mm-hmm. So it's like if they release a bunch of rune score challenges, I'll be like, hey, whoever gets the most rune score, wins or a bunch of GP, and it's like it's a fair.
What is the max rune score?
It's like 15 or billion. I don't know. I made that number up. It's a lot. It's like 30,000, 30-something, 32,000. It's up there.
My rune
is currently 24,545.
Mine's in the 9s. I'll tell you that. I suck.
Mine is 15,480.
Nice.
Yeah, mine's around there.
I'm just like I said, you can tell right by my rune score that I am not a completionist. I just want that XP. I'm over $3 billion. I'm getting there. If I was playing RuneScape this summer, I would be 120 in all skills. I'm not playing because that would happen. I'm afraid of 120 in all skills.
Well, you should if you ever do get the inclusion play, you should get 120 Hunter before it gets nerfed.
I don't want
That's a good point.
I want it to get nerfed. I want it.
Oh, you want it to get nerfed?
Yes. The new.
Oh, and then do it the slow way or whatever.
Yeah, the new barehanded butterfly method sounds awesome.
Yeah.
600k an hour, AFK. sounds great. Compared to 1.2 million an hour, sweaty.
It does take a lot of work.
No, thank you.
It is a lot of work. It's definitely higher than 1.2 if you just like go full focus mode or whatever, and you have all the upgrades and stuff. But
1.4.
yeah, well, that's with island hopping. But just like when you're doing the totals themselves, it's like 1.9. It's so sick.
Anyways, compromise is essential, I think, is the big bold letters right here. That is probably the last thing I'm going to read from this document. There's also a straw poll here that says, what do you think of the proposal? 77% of the 209 votes say I like your proposal. I agree. I like the proposal.
I love the other options on the proposal.
Your proposal is garbage is the first option. I almost voted that by accident just because it's the first option. All the other options is your proposal is garbage. You have to be really careful.
You might have, that's kind of a biased wording too. There's somebody out there that doesn't want to make them feel bad. They'll be like, well, the only option is to say it's good.
I mean, it's a good proposal. I think it was I think it was good. I think that was good. I mean, the design is good. I appreciate everyone who has stuck around to listen to us talk about it. I only have one more thing to talk about that has nothing to do with the proposal now. I have my own proposal to pitch before we take off. So unless anyone else has anything to say.
Did you want to talk about the bank rework and stuff too? Or save that for next week.
This is just a comp show. We can if you talk about the bank rework, everyone. I don't mind.
Well, the beta goes live on Monday. That was the only reason I was curious.
Oh yeah, there's a bank rework beta on Monday?
Yep.
I don't play RuneScape anymore. What the fuck? Sorry.
I believe so, yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to hear about that. I literally watched the freaking show, the live stream, and I did not hear that there was a beta for it. I just watched them play with it. Okay. We can talk about it then. So, there's placeholders. Yeah. I'm excited about that.
I posted the dev blog in the live chat.
Awesome. Let me grab that. Before we talk about that, I will do a billboard in the middle of the show then. Even better. A teaser is even better because you have a captive audience. They can't just turn the show off unless they don't want to listen to it anymore. So we have a special going on right now until June 1st on patreon.com/RuneScape. It's our 10-year anniversary. If you want to support the show, you can do so in a very special way. We have an offer going on. I am creating a USB drive that is going to have the first season of RuneScape Weekly on it, as well as some bonus content as well that will only be available there. It's going to include some interviews, as well as some monologues for me, some special art, stuff like that. So it's also going to be signed and numbered. So if you want to get yours, you can pledge at I believe it's the $20 mark now. It's the sustaining member. You'll see the lightning bolt signed USB stick with season 1 on it. This offer ends on June 1st. Then at June 1st, it goes up to the $50 tier, and this offer goes away altogether in August. The early offer will ship at the end of June, so the early ones, the $20 ones, will begin going out once the June offer ends. So if you signed up for the $20 ones, I will begin creating them and shipping them out in June. So you have 14 days left as of my voice speaking and releasing this. It is currently May 18th. So as of May 18th, you have 14 days left. If you want to get in on this offer, these are a limited edition, obviously, to celebrate 10 years of RuneScape Weekly. Get in on it if you'd like to. And happy scaping. Let's talk about the bank rework, shall we? So it says, yes, you read the title correctly. We're happy to confirm that a bank rework is actually happening. Can you believe this? How long have they been talking about a bank rework? How long have we been harassing them for a bank rework? And then,
I mean, as long as I can remember listening to this podcast, long ago, I remember talks of bank rework, and
I believe it's actually coming out when it's actually in my hands. Until then,
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. I remember during the if you did catch the broken show that I did upload to patreon.com/RuneScape for free, because the first like 39 minutes of audio are corrupted, so it's free to listen to for everybody, was going to be a Patreon exclusive, but I can't give garbage to patrons, so I just let it up for free, so anyone can listen to it. But the entire show is in there, and every time Shawnee said a specific word, I was like, yeah, that delays the entire project by another month. Because, like, I don't believe this is ever coming out, because...
Well, to be honest, I can't find anywhere where it says that the beta is starting on Monday.
Yeah, I think...
I've heard like a million times from people that something's gonna change with the bank on Monday. So I'm not entirely sure.
I'm gonna read through the article anyway. It says here, the bank rework was first announced way back at RuneFest in 2016. Sadly, probably we got a bit ahead of ourselves back then. In the months that followed, we hit a bit of a technical hurdle that prevented us from ever launching it. We acknowledge that this has very likely gone some way to dampening your excitement and anticipation, and we're sorry, but we're quite hopefully that we are changing the plans, and we have somewhat protracted the wait. Bank placeholders is undoubtedly the most requested bank update. Most people have very strictly arranged bank, or at least have tabs for certain gear. But when a player wants to take out their expensive PVM equipment, the bank collapses itself and moves everything around. That can be frustrating to anyone who has their items in specific places or want to know where something is at any given time. So how is this solved? The idea is simple. Whenever the last item of a stack is withdrawn, the item itself stays in place at the same spot at a quantity of 0, therefore putting a stop to an unwanted shuffling. Any deposits of the item at a later date would replace the placeholder. This feature can be turned on or off. Bank improvements. With this update, we've also taken the opportunity to give the bank some under-the-hood improvements. We'll go into detail on this a bit in future development blogs. In the meantime, let's look a little at the bank interface. So they've got a graphic here which breaks down the new bank interface, which is not terribly different than the old one, but it has gotten a bit of a facelift. One being it's got a new scroll tab, and now you're allowed 15 bank tabs, up from 9. Bank button additions have also been added into the top right-hand corner. You can also increase the left-hand click amount from 1, 5, 10 in all, up from only being able to left-click 1 at a time. You can also adjust it to an X amount, so you could even have a variable amount of left-click items, which is pretty cool. Also, your Diango and player and house items have all been moved up there from the bottom. Let's see here. They've also moved the bank preset options. This used to be a bigger button on the main bank interface, now resides behind the cog button. The Warren equipment statistics window used to be hidden behind the Warren icon button. Now it can be opened by clicking the skills icon tab. The backpack button deposits all of your backpack items. That's not a change. The familiar button will now deposit your Beast of Burden inventory into your bank. That's also not a change. So some things are not changed. Plus, there's a new default number to move windows. Similar to the old school RuneScape quantity bank option, you can now withdraw listed items, as I mentioned before. Number 3 shows you a new search box, integrating the Backpack, Warren, Beast of Burden preset buttons into one area, in addition to adding your coin pouch amount into one window. Instead of having to click on the Warren icon to get your Warren equipment, now you'll be able to click on the tab in the window. The Beast of Burden button is behind the make clear to make the player that they currently don't have a Beast of Burden active. Note, withdrawing with the Warren tab in focus will try and wear the item without needing to drag the item to the slot or right click. So if you have your worn items open, you can actually just left click equip, which is kind of cool. Same goes for Beast of Burden. There's a filter option as well for junk and members items and non-members items, which can help you clean up your bank, or if you're a non-member and whatnot, you're trying to, fix that. There's also a dynamic search as well. Searching is a lot faster. So lots of interesting stuff. At a glance, they've showed a big difference in the bank. So when is this going live? It says here, fundamentally, we want to make sure we do this right, so we're going to release a running beta. This will be a great chance for you to have a chance to try it yourself, and it will begin. It says we're aiming to have this happen sometime between July, August, and September of 2019. So we won't have an idea about release dates until after that. In the meantime, keep your eyes open for a blog digging deeper into the code behind this project, courtesy of Mod Hunter. So there you go.
There were some good comments in the Reddit thread too. Mod Sova said, "Not openly talking about this has been the hardest part of working at Jagex recently." And then Mod Shawnee replied, "My hands were literally shaking trying to put this live." So it's something that's been very hush-hush.
I can imagine not trying to not talk about this, because people have been harassing them about this for a long time, and they just have not been able to say anything.
I'll be so happy to have placeholders.
Right, that'll be great.
So yeah, it sounds like I was wrong in saying that anything is going live on Monday other than the wiki thing. But
the wiki thing is going live on Monday. That is
wording is a little weird too.
Things happen. There you go. So the wiki will go live. The slash wiki, and then you'll be able to type in something, and it will open a window.
Have some patch notes and stuff.
That's cool though. That'll be cool.
It's going to be so nice to not have to search through my entire PVM tab just to find my friggin' armor.
Right.
Right.
The only tab that's bigger is my potions tab. Like, the partial doses.
That mess tab is a disaster. I need a service that just auto-combines potions. If they made a premium service that did that, I'd probably pay for it.
Shoot. I don't know how I managed to do this, but my RuneScape page is now in Spanish.
Bottom right-hand corner of the page, there's a flag. This is a bug.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Very good.
There's a website bug. I was freaking out the other day when mine was in German, and I was like, I don't speak this. Help! And it was
not only that, you don't even know how to read it to fix it.
It was during a show too.
I realized you just ruined hours of entertainment as you tried to learn.
Well, that's the thing, is it happened to me during a show, so we gained like a good 10 minutes of entertainment during a show one time. So it's good. Anyway, anything else anyone got? I'm good. I'm tapped. My brain is tapped, at least.
That is really all for me. Although I did think about what I want to be introduced as next time instead.
Oh, good. Cool.
MagneticExistence.
Very good. Very good.
Just because that's my name everywhere.
Cool. I will not call you Maggie as for short then, right?
No. Or one of the big things, it's a meme. So my parents used to always call me Jakey Poo when I was a kid, and I freaking hate it.
I will not call you Jakey Poo. No worries.
Jake's fine casually, but I just thought about that.
That's cool. No, yeah. I was looking for a call sign for you, and I just didn't know what to call you. Now I know.
It's a bit of a tongue twister at times.
It sounds like we got to go by JP.
Yeah, JP. I guess I don't mind that as much.
Don't bust his
But
ball.
I really like the name MagneticExistence.
I do too. It's a pretty sweet name. My microphone is cutting out. God damn it. All right. Let us read through the end cap unless anyone's got anything else they want to cover on the show.
No, sir.
Right on. In the meantime, you can find us on social media. We got a Facebook page for you, facebook.com/RSWeekly. We're also on Twitter @RSWeekly. Discord, runescape.chat in your web browser. We're also on YouTube, runescape.video. Magebit.tv is our YouTube channel. You can find our clan on the web, runescape.club. You can find me on the web, runescape.expert. runeweek.com is the podcast's website. You can support the show, patreon.com/RuneScape. Get pre-shows if you'd like. PayPal.me/RSW to one-time support the show. And if you'd like to support my personal projects, Magebit.me just released a huge article on my last foray with the psychiatric ward like 6 years ago. If you want to read it, article. Yeah, it's about like 8 pages long. Check it out, Magebit.me. It's an interesting read. I've gotten pretty good feedback on it. It's completely free to read. There's no paywalls on that one. You got to scroll down a bit now, though, because I've released other things since then. But it's there, and I'd love feedback on it. So if you have read it, feel free to PM me in-game, email me, show@runeweek.com, catch me at runescape.chat. I'm definitely looking for feedback on my writing style. If you critique it or anything, let me know. Anyway, we will be back in full force. Magebit in the morning will continue on Monday, and we'll be back on Friday, hopefully, to continue. I will just assume that the show will be going as normal on Friday, and I will just be doing the show as the main host.